Hello, everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I'm your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and it is once again my pick this week, and so, of course, I know that Michael Dell likes Golden Age superheroes, so I picked a comic book featuring the Spectre.
The Spectre.
Yes. And it also kind of ties in with Shock-Tober because he's somewhat of a horror-themed superhero in that he is a ghost, right? So,
especially now, but tell the people what the comic book is, Michael.
Oh, you're right. I should probably do that. It's Adventure Comics number 431. Back in those days, it was an anthology comic. For a long time, it was a Superman title, then it was Superboy, then it was Supergirl. But at this point, it was just rotating different characters.
And spoiler alert, Michael, I did not read that ridiculous backup story.
Oh, you should have. You should have.
It was terrible.
It was really good. And you know who the artist was for the backup, right?
No, I did not.
You didn't... Alex Toth from the Black Canary story.
It was. I looked at the first page of it, and I was like, this is garbage. I'm not reading this.
Oh, it's too bad because it's actually really good. In fact, I give that, without spoiler alert, I give it an 8 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
Okay. Tell the people real quick what it's about, like the premise. It's like, it looked like something from Fraggle Rock.
No,
like,
it's basically...
Jim Henson
it's
Productions.
Like, no, it's on another planet, and basically on this planet there are humans and there are animals. But there are also animals that are intelligent. I don't know if there's more than one species, but this one is called a snurl. And it's a big sort of pink, I don't know, like a bear with a small head. And the premise of the story is that these animals are intelligent, but one of them, but they're kind of like treated like slaves. And one of them is really friendly with his human master, but his wife is like, well, you shouldn't be friendly with them, blah, blah, blah. And then this human tries to sell this snurl to another human owner. And so he gets pissed off and he escapes and he finds refuge with a bunch of other animals that are actual like earth animals, like a lion, an elephant, a giraffe, a zebra. And the whole point of the conflict is that they don't want to trust him because they keep calling him a human. And he keeps saying, no, I'm not a human, I'm an animal. And so they ask him to prove whether or not he's a human or an animal by using a gun to shoot his former human masters. And the idea is that it's kind of like a spy thing. Well, oh, you're really a German? Well, then shoot this American prisoner to prove it, kind of thing. And I won't say how it ends, but it's awesome.
All right, well, that actually does sound pretty good. But I just, snarls, I was like, forget this. I'm not reading it. All right.
Never judge a book by its title, Mike Dell.
Never judge a book by its snarl.
Yeah.
So, all right. But the reason we're here today is for the Spectre.
That's right.
The Spectre. And for those who don't remember the Spectre, he's this, he wears a green cape and green underpants and like green boots, little boots. And otherwise he's all white.
Right. Yeah, like green, well, don't forget green gloves.
Yeah, green gloves. But he's like a ghastly white, like a ghost.
Right.
Like a specter, some would say.
Exactly. Or a spook.
Mike, I also want to point out that they spell Spectre the correct way, the S-P-E-C-T-R-E instead of E-R, because lately E-R is getting a big push. You know, everyone spells Spectre E-R, but no.
Well,
R-E.
this would be, this is the original way, and I'm assuming the ER is the American way, right?
That's right. It's the Americanization of the spelling, and it's E-R-E is the cool way to spell it. So,
see, I'm
Spectre.
not, I don't consider myself conservative about any cause, but the preservation of language and spelling, I am 100% on the side of tradition, you know?
Hence Z, like you said a Z, you say Z.
Exactly. That's right.
And a boot.
Well, that's a whole different story, but anyway.
All right, so the Spectre, real name Jim Corrigan. Mm-hmm. And it's C-O-R-R-I-G-A-N, if you're spelling
that's right.
home.
The original way.
And his first appearance, Michael, More Fun Comics, 52, from 1940.
Cool.
So the Spectre is one of the earliest superheroes.
Right, and are you going to mention who co-created him?
I will. Jerry Siegel of Superman fame.
That's right.
And the artist was a fellow named Bernard Bailey.
Yep. Very cool.
Jim Corgan was like a hard-boiled police detective. And have you read More Fun 52, his first appearance?
No, I have not. No, maybe once, maybe.
I went back and read it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Again, it's from 1940. But this Jim Corgan fella, he's like a hard-boiled police detective. Real, rugged, tough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't mess with Jim Corgan. But he's engaged to a beautiful socialite named Clarice Watkins, I believe. Is that it? Something like that. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah. Oh, Winston. Clarice Winston. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Clarice. And again, she's a beautiful socialite, or as beautiful as 1940 artists can make ladies, because not that good. Really not that good looking. But
okay.
Did you ever notice their eyes are very far apart, it seems, in the 1940s? I don't know.
Sometimes that looks good.
So, anyway. It seems like an odd couple, this rough, gruff police detective and this socialite. But, they're about to get married. But on his way to the engagement party, they're going to announce their engagement. And he's getting ready. He's going, here an informer comes up and says, hey, I got a tip. There's some heist going on down by the docks or whatever. So he says, all right, that engagement party to the beautiful socialite can wait. I'm going to go stop this this heist. And he goes by himself. He doesn't call in backup or anything. And he just beats up all these crooks all by himself. And the action is tremendous.
Okay.
But he gets he goes to the hospital, so he misses the engagement party. He goes to the hospital to get some scrapes attended to, and Clarice goes down there, and she's like yelling at him, "Why'd you miss the party?" Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "You listen here, woman. I'm the man. I'm the boss. You be quiet." And then they just start kissing. And well, they're driving back to go to the party now. The main gangster guy who had orchestrated the previous heist that Jim Corrigan had disrupted. His name is Gat. Oh, shoot. What's his name? I should really write these down. Gat Benson. Gat Benson.
Okay.
I guess Gat is probably short for Gatling gun, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Gat Benson. So Gat Benson and his guy, they capture Corgan and Clarice on their way to the party. They pull them over in guns, and he's like, hey, you get out of the car. We're going to shoot the lady. So they kidnap him. They take him to the wharf, and they conk Corrigan over the back of the head with a gun, knock him unconscious. Then they put him in a barrel, Michael. They stuff his body in a barrel, fill the barrel with concrete, and throw him in the river.
Yikes.
He dead. Yeah.
Okay.
They killed Jim Corrigan. So Jim Corrigan's dying, but he's drifting up to heaven, and he sees the bright light, Go to the light, Michael. Go to the light. So he's trying to go to the light, but they won't let him in. And this disembodied voice comes up and says, hey, Jim Corrigan, you're dead, but your mission's not done on Earth. You're going to go back and be the spirit of vengeance against all evildoers. And he gets sent back to Earth, and he becomes the Spectre.
Yep.
And that's his goal. He's God's vengeance against evildoers.
Right.
So in the book, he comes to underwater at the bottom of the river. Mm-hmm. And he's like, how come I'm not dead? I'm just sitting here underwater. And then he looks over at the barrel, and there's a hand sticking out of the barrel. And he goes, oh, that's probably me in there. But I'm out here. Yeah. What's going on? So he flies out of the river, and he starts to realizing he can float and do all kinds of stuff. And he goes in with the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And the one guy sees him and starts freaking out. And he just drops over dead. Huh. Just boom, dies. And then the second guy, I think he also freaks out or something. He tries to touch him maybe, and he turns into a skeleton. Boom. And then his bones just fall to the ground.
Awesome.
And then Gat Benson, Corrigan makes all these duplicates of himself to go after Gat Benson. And Gat Benson says, hey, back up or the broad's going to get it. And he shoots Clarice. Boom, shoots her in the chest. Oh, she's passed out on the ground, by the way. Okay. And even though she's passed out, he still shoots her in the chest. So Corrigan then takes care of Gat Benson, and he says, oh, no, Clarice is dead. And he picks her up in his arms. But when he touches her, her wounds heal.
Ooh.
And she's now fine. But so Corrigan calls the cops to come get Gat Benson. And the cops don't seem to think anything's weird that, one guy's a bunch of bones and
Okay.
and they don't seem to notice. So they're driving back to the engagement party, and Corrigan the whole time he's thinking, hey, she doesn't know what happened. I can't tell her that I'm now a dead guy. I'm now a spirit. So he breaks it off with her. He just says, hey, hit the bricks, lady. I'm done with you. And she's like, what, Jim? What are you saying? And he's like, this is my dramatic recreation. And Jim's like, beat it, Toots. I lost interest. And she's like, oh, and she starts crying and runs away. But he had to do it, Michael, because he's the Spectre now. He has no time for love. You understand?
That's why I break up with every girl.
Beat it, Toots.
Yep.
I lost interest.
Words.
So, but Corgan goes back to being a cop. He's still a cop, but whenever needed, he puts on his green underpants and his little white outfit, and he becomes the Spectre.
Nice.
But it's pretty cool. I actually like this. Oh, and by the way, Clarice, flash forward, I guess when Corgan saved her life by using his powers on her, he kind of made her immortal.
Oh, really?
And she couldn't die. Even though she tried to kill herself a few times, she didn't
Really?
die. Yeah, so that gets way into other stuff later on. Some nonsense happens in like the 90s and stuff with her,
Sure,
but
of course.
we'll forget all that. Yeah. So there's the backstory there for Jim Corgan. And he was a charter member of the Justice Society of America,
Yep.
which started at All-Star Comics number 3, 1940. Can you name the other members of the Justice Society of America? The original members, Michael.
Okay, without Googling it. Hourman?
Correct.
Starman?
No.
Oh, I'm already losing here. Hawkman.
Correct.
The Atom.
Correct.
The Flash.
Correct.
Green Lantern.
Correct. Two more.
Two more. I mean, I want to say Superman and Batman.
No.
Right, because they were kind of like reserve members. So there's two more. Okay. Oh, was it Johnny Thunder?
Incorrect, although he did come later.
Okay. Ooh, Dr. Fate.
Correct. And then my guy, who I really like this guy, and then Neil Gaiman ruined him.
Sandman.
Correct.
Yeah, ruined him.
There you go. So, yeah, plus the Spectre. That's your original Justice Society of America lineup.
Awesome.
So, in More Fun Comics 75 in 1942, Jim Corgan is resurrected. I don't know. I guess he chiseled his way out of the cemented barrel.
Okay.
And so he and the Spectre split. Like, the Spectre's off on his own. He's like a spirit on his own.
When was this?
1942.
Okay.
In issue 75 of More Fun
okay.
Comics. So Corrigan goes off to fight the Nazis in World War II.
Okay.
And the Spectre he's on his own as a spirit. And incredibly, Michael, this Spectre, this vengeance of God, soon becomes a guardian angel for Percival Pop, Super Cop.
Okay.
Have you ever heard that name before?
No.
I guess he's like
here.
he's like a bumbling cop, and the Spectre would be like his guardian angel, so he would always, fix things for him. So Percival Pop, this bumbling idiot, looks like a super cop because of the Spectre.
Ah.
So
they
that's
kind
what they just ruined
changed
the Spectre.
they changed the status quo, eh? Huh.
Yeah, he was no longer a vengeful spirit from God. He was just a goofball. So the Spectre made his final appearance in More Fun Comics with issue 101, and then he left the Justice Society of America in All-Star Comics number 23, and both of those issues were in early 1945. Editor Julius Schwartz revived the Spectre in the mid-1950s, and he was once again a vengeful spirit.
Right.
Taking out the evildoers. And he made various appearances throughout the 60s in Showcase, Justice League, and The Brave and the Bold. Mm-hmm. And the character became like super powerful, like godlike and omnipotent. Like he could do all kind of crazy shit. So
Now, you know where it becomes really confusing though is here's a question: was that the Earth 1 or Earth 2 Spectre?
Yeah, this is people debate this a lot, and apparently there's a couple explanations for this that Earth 2 Spectre came into Earth 1 Jim Corrigan. So I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, DC Comics continuity. Don't even try to understand it.
Can't argue with that.
It's a train wreck. So the Spectre got his own series in 1967. but it lasted only 10 issues. It's most notable because a young Neil Adams, he drew, I think, issues, if I'm remembering correctly, like 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I think he wrote issues 4 and 5 as well. And then the final 2 issues of the series, 9 and 10, were basically like a horror anthology with the Spectre just serving as like a narrator. Kind of like those House of Mystery or whatever.
House of Secrets and House of whatever, yeah.
I guess the problem was they're like, how can we keep making interesting stories with this character who is a god? He can do whatever he wants.
Right. Huge
That's a problem. Yeah, big problem. So then editor Joe Orlando revived the Spectre for Adventure Comics, and that's what we will be reading today. And he brought him back in issue 431, 1974. Now, the reason he brought him back is because Joe Orlando was mugged. And
really?
Yeah, he was so, pissed off about getting mugged. He's like, we need a superhero who's vengeful and hunts down criminals and is just relentless in pursuing criminals. So he brought back the Spectre, made him more of the vengeful, wrath of God. And he had a 10-issue run here in Adventure Comics. Orlando would plot all the issues with writer Michael Fleischer. And Jim Aparo was the artist for all the issues. And it was kind of this run, which is generally called The Wrath of the Spectre. It's known for its gruesome, disgusting ways in which the Spectre kills criminals.
Right, right.
Because this is after the Comics Code had been relaxed. So they could go nuts.
Right.
And you get a taste of it in this issue we're reading today.
Yeah.
But I guess, like every issue is just how can the Spectre kill these criminals in more weird, gruesome ways. I don't know.
Right.
And I guess some fans kind of took offense to it at some point. So DC canceled the run of the Spectre at 10 issues. They still had 3 issues written. And then later in 1988, they put out a 4-issue limited series called The Wrath of the Spectre. And Jim Aparo went back and he drew art for those 3 scripts. And they were used in issue 4 of that limited series. Nice.
Yeah, I think I've got that somewhere.
Because like the first 3 issues were just reprinting the other 7 of that run. And then issue 4 did the 3 that were never read. And again, that was 1988. So DC was going to bring the Spectre back in 85 with Steve Gerber as the writer. But guess what, Michael? Steve Gerber missed the deadline for issue 1.
Yikes. Yeah, as usual, eh?
Yeah, shocking. But do you know why he missed the deadline?
No, why?
This was 1985. He wanted to attend the final days of shooting on Howard the Duck.
Really?
Yep. So that's why no Spectre. You can blame Howard the Duck. Yeah.
Interesting.
So then in the 90s, what's the guy, the writer for DC, Joe Ostrander or something like that?
Oh, Ostrander, yes. I've interviewed him.
Yeah, he brought the Spectre back, and I guess he brought him into some prominence. But they just totally fucked up his back. They retconned a bunch of stuff, made it even crazier, and, a bunch of bullshit, Michael. And then later, there was a time where a fellow named Crispus Allen became the Spectre.
Yeah, see, there's exactly where I check out.
And he was also a police officer. Mm-hmm. And he was shot by a corrupt police officer. And do you know this police officer's name?
No, I don't.
Jim Corrigan.
Come on.
But it's not the Jim Corrigan. It's a different Jim Corrigan.
Wow, that sounds like crap.
Why the hell would you do that? Like, who thinks that's a good idea?
That's crap.
Yeah, it's not the Jim Corrigan, just another guy named Jim Corrigan. That idea had to be approved by writers, editors. Mm-hmm. What is going on? So, yeah. Again, when it comes to basically any comic book character, if you want to know their backstory, what they're about, go to the original and just stop there.
I agree.
It just, especially in DC, because it gets crazy in DC.
I don't know. 90s Marvel is, trust me, it's worse. If you've read any 90s Marvel, it's terrible.
But Spectre, like we said, they made him so powerful. Mm-hmm. Like I was reading at some point, he was throwing planets. He could get up. He was creating supernovas in the palm of his hand out in space. He was doing all kind of absurd things. That's dumb. I don't like any of that.
No, I don't either.
But I like the idea of a guy being a vengeful, wrath of God to punish
Sure, that's
evildoers.
cool. Yep.
Yeah, that's real cool. But they
It's
need to
almost like
limit
Ghost
the powers.
Rider, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very much like Ghost Rider. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have these super powerful things because then it's just what's the point? There's like no stakes. There's no danger. There's no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You need to limit them.
Yeah.
Limit them. So what else about the Spectre, Michael? I guess he played a pivotal role in Crisis on Infinite Earths, right?
Yes, he basically, at the climax of the story, he's the one that wrestled with the Anti-Monitor and prevented him from destroying the multiverse.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And if he put him in a figure 4 leg lock.
Right, that would have been great.
And the Anti-Monitor, the Anti-Monitor tried to roll over and reverse it, but he couldn't, and he was too far from the ropes, and he had to tap.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I love the Spectre, small scale Spectre, not so much wrestling Anti-Monitor Spectre.
Right, me neither.
That's not what I like. All right, so the creator here is, or the writer here is Michael Fleischer, and we can talk about him later.
I got something to say about him, but yeah.
All right, and then we got Jim Aparo on the art.
Oh, yeah.
Also, well, let's get into the book, Michael. And unless there's anything else you need to say about the Spectre.
No, I was going to talk about Michael Fleischer, but I'll save that for later.
Okay.
But I got some notes here.
Disperse.
Yeah, not yet. It's not over yet. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about this. So we got this awesome cover, The Wrath of the Spectre. I love it.
I do not like the cover.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's, there's a lot of negative space there, a lot of wasted space. I think it could have been much better. I don't know. Well, describe the cover. Cover.
So we got, first starting at the top, let's just talk about this. We've got our old 70s DC logo, the line of DC superstars, right? And then it's funny because
that's in a circle in the left corner.
Right.
And then in the right corner, there's a circle with the price and the issue number.
Right, in the month and all that.
And it's 20 cents.
Right, 20 cents. And then we have this awesome classic logo, Adventure Comics. Adventure looks like it's kind of handwritten. But then funny enough, next to the logo, underneath the DC logo, there's another little in tiny print, Adventure Comics again.
Yeah.
Not sure why they have that, but...
and then we got the Wrath of the Spectre between the two circles.
Right. And this is kind of like, then the comics font is that classic font they used for Action Comics and Detective Comics. I'm not sure what font that is, but it's pretty, classic.
Mm.
And then anyway, so that takes up almost like a fifth of the cover, and then we have the image of the Spectre.
Probably more than that. It's probably a full third of the cover, actually.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, measure it out. That's a third.
Okay. And then we have the Spectre as like a giant ghostly image hovering kind of over this guy with his hand out, and this bad guy's hands are melting, and then behind him is like this machine gun that's kind of like, it's smoking, like the smoke coming out of the barrel. And so that line is kind of leading up to the top of the image. And the negative space you're talking about is basically the Spectre, his legs are spread out. And then the bad guy, it's weird because he could be kind of between them, but he's kind of more to the left. So yeah, there's this big empty space right next to him. It's kind of odd.
Yeah,
but I've seen worse.
But the color beneath the top third with the Adventure Comics, it's a light blue. And then we get light blue at the bottom with that empty space. I just think they could have, Aparo could have done this. I would have preferred if we don't see the Spectre's legs at all, because that looks really weird.
Yeah,
see
you
his
could
crotch
say that.
and then his legs. And also, you could have just made the guy much bigger, and you see his hands melting. I don't even know if we need to really see the gun smoking. I mean,
yeah, that's kind of pointless.
Or you could have put the gun in like one of his hands and as his hands are melting.
Yeah.
Like imagine this cover with just the Spectre from the hand and the cape and the head, and then that crook, his face and his hands taking up the rest of it on the bottom. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like his face to the page left of the hand, and his melting hands sticking up to the right, and melting down the full right side. There you go. That's a cover.
There you go.
Yeah.
Should have called you.
So anyway.
But yeah, what's funny is Jim Aparo, I've never thought he's a great cover artist, but I think he was better back in these days, in the early days.
Yeah.
But he's definitely, we'll talk about it later, but I love his art. But anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Well, we should mention, now that we're on the splash page, we see the credits. Technically, he didn't do all the art here.
That's what's confusing.
Well, the script is by Michael Fleischer, and the art continuity is credited to Russell Carley. And Fleischer and Carley worked together a lot back in the day, and they were like partners. And basically, Carley, what he did was the breakdowns. So
okay.
when Fleischer had Fleischer was kind of new to comics, and he wasn't sure how to write scripts. So he would write something, and Carley would be the one to lay out the panels and the art and help Fleischer make sense of the story. So, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I was going to say, it seemed a little bit different from what I'm used to from Aparo.
Yeah, so basically Aparo is doing the finishing here. But okay. I think like the final couple of these issues on the Spectre run, Aparo is doing the entire art, breakdowns and finishes. So, but for this issue, Russell Carley is doing the layouts and breakdowns.
Interesting. Okay. Because, it's funny, because even on the opening splash page, the official credits just say Michael Fleischer, Russell Carley, and Joe Orlando, but Jim Aparo signs the splash page. Yeah,
like on the far right, there's a little box that says Jim Aparo. So.
Right, but he's not even credited in the actual credits, which is really weird.
Yeah, so you could almost... And again, this is one of those stupid DC things that they did, where they made the splash page kind of like a second cover.
Right.
So the splash page is not connected in any way to the next page of the story.
No.
So it's almost like, did Jim Aparo just draw this splash page? And that's why he signed it?
Well, no, because I can tell by the rest of the art, I see a lot of Aparo in it. For sure.
Yeah, Aparo did the finishing for the rest. But I mean, like, if you weren't familiar with him, you wouldn't know.
Right.
You'd be like,
there's no credit, right?
Yeah, so anyway.
So basically, like you said, in this opening splash page, we see a jet plane flying through the air. It's storming, and we see a giant image of the Spectre hovering above it with his hands out. And it says the Wrath of the Spectre, which again gives its name to this whole run of comics, right?
Yep.
And it's a pretty cool image. Again, it's not quite peak Aparo but it's still good. I really like it.
Yeah, I like it as well.
Yeah.
It's a big old Spectre.
And then in the next page, we join in on a what is this called? Like one of these trucks that carries money for a bank, whatever those are called.
Armored truck.
Yeah, armored truck. There you go. And so it's driving along this road, kind of like alongside a mountain or whatever. And you get a couple of criminals pointing guns at them, at the truck, and the gun. They shoot the guys, and then basically the guys stop, and then they're getting out, and one of them is like ready to surrender, but the main bad guy shoots him dead anyway, right?
Yep.
And so one of the guys is like, "Hey Fritz, why'd you have to gun him down like that? They was surrendering. They was just like cops, wasn't they? Now stop running your mouth like an egg beater and let's go get that money." Good voices, eh?
Yeah.
So then they grab the money, and I guess somehow the cops have already been alerted, and so there's cops shooting at the bad guys. And then one of the bad guys gets shot, and one of the gang...
Pete's been hit.
Pete's been hit. And then one of the other guys tries to warn the boss, "Hey, Pete's been hit." And then, "Wait, don't leave me." And then the tough guy ends up shooting Fritz. Shoots Pete dead. So instead of trying to go back and help him or just leave him to get caught, nope, shoots him dead, right?
Well, yeah, you can't just leave him to get caught because he could rat out the others.
Right.
So, got to tie up all those loose ends, Michael. Clearly, you've never robbed an armored truck.
Exactly.
This is what you got to do. Yeah.
And again, this art is awesome. Like we get, a tiny car in the background, a big car in the foreground with the headlights. And then the next panel, we see, the dead bodies in the foreground and the cops getting out of the car. And again, you could tell what was going on just by looking at the art. It's so good, right?
Yeah.
I just love it. Anyway, and then he radios in for help. And then the next panel, now we've got Detective Jim Corrigan on the scene, right?
Yeah, he's got his trench coat.
Yep.
And he's looking through the dead body of the crook, Pete. And he got shot.
Pete, and look at this. How convenient. He finds a business card on him, so that's his clue, right? That's what he's going to use to find out where these guys operate.
For Golden Age antiques.
Right.
Well, what do you know? A criminal with an interest in antiques. That's what
right,
Jim
and then we
Corrigan's
cut to
thinking.
we cut to the next panel and we see the bad guys counting their money, and of course with this there's a sign behind them, Golden Age Antiques, right? So
Because again, here's a tip for you armored car robbers out there. If you're going to heist an armored car, leave your personal business cards at home.
Right.
Don't bring them with you.
Yep. And so yeah, once again they're like, "Come on, Fritz, why'd you shoot that guy?" And he's like, you pipe down and finish counting the money, will ya? So basically, he's talking about, the classic, like, everyone lay low. I'm going to South America. Usually they go to South America to kind of retire, but he's going to go blow all his money, and then when the money's gone, he's going to come back and they're going to do another job. But
yeah, well, that's what I would do as well.
Yeah.
Because the money's going to run out. Hookers and booze, it's going to run out.
Right.
So, but he also made the good point of saying, "Hey, there's more for us to share without Pete." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Took care of Pete. Bigger shares for the rest of us. Ain't no problem.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then we cut to the exterior, and Jim Corrigan, of course, he sees the sign Golden Age Antiques, but he's got to check his business card again just to make sure it matches up, right? Sure enough, it does.
Wait, is it spelled the same? G-O? Yep, this is the place.
Yeah. So then he goes in and he sees one of the bad guys, and he starts questioning him. But then
he doesn't really question him too much. Like, he just accuses him right away.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Just tell me, who helped you pull that armored car heist early this evening, and I'll see to it that all of you get a crack at the Police Athletic League Citizen of the Year award. And then the next shot, we see a big close-up of the bad guy reaching down to pull a handgun out from behind the counter, right? And he's like, armored car robbery? Why, yes, I think I can help you. You see, one of my customers is blam, blam, blam. He starts shooting him, but Jim Corrigan is but a spook. And
He's
so
a
the
Spectre.
bullets go... yeah, he's a Spectre. So the bullets go right through him and he disappears. And he's like, oh no, I don't know what's going on here, but I ain't staying around here to mess with no spook. And so he grabs his briefcase of money and runs away and jumps in his car, right?
Yep.
But the Spectre is now hovering above... Well, where is he now? This is... Oh yeah, so now the Spectre is floating above him as he's making this phone call, right?
Yeah, at a phone booth. And
Right.
again,
So
he's in full Spectre gear now, not just Jim
Right.
Corrigan. Yeah.
So now this bad guy is calling... Oh, so this is Charlie. So Charlie calls Hank and tells him... Where do you get these names
Charlie, Hank, Fritz, and Pete.
from? Yeah, I know.
What a group.
So he's like trying to convince Hank of what's going on. Of course, Hank doesn't believe Charlie. So he's like, well, whatever, my lucky rabbit's foot's guaranteed to scare the pants off of every spook within 50 miles, right? So then, whatever, Hank's like, okay. So, this is Hank now, right? So he's driving away. He's trying to get to safety. But then all of a sudden, a giant image of the Spectre appears in front of him on the road, right?
Yeah.
And then the guy veers out of the way and he's like, that thing in the middle of the road. I'll hit it unless I turn off onto this road and... Wait, this road, there ain't no road here. It's nothing but and then he falls and drives off a cliff and smashes onto the rocks below. Dead,
blows
right?
up.
Car blows up, yep.
Yeah, Spectre's
The
no
next
joke,
day.
man. He'll kill a guy.
Right.
Ain't no
So
problem.
then the next day, now we're back with Hank, right?
Now
and
look
Hank-
at what Hank's reading, Michael.
Oh yeah, the Daily Bugle, a little inside joke there, eh?
Yeah, he's
I love
reading the
it.
Daily Bugle newspaper.
And then, did you see the poster in the background?
yeah, Swamp Thing.
Swamp
on the
Thing,
back.
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's reading the paper, thinks everything's good to go. And then all of a sudden the Spectre phases through the wall and materializes behind him. You have good reason to be afraid, Hank. Huh, who are you? Men call me the Spectre. The Spectre, that's some kind of ghost, ain't it? Let's debate it. The dictionary definition, a Spectre is a ghost, right?
Yes.
So they start going back and forth. He pulls out his gun, and this is where it gets cool. He pulls out his gun, but the Spectre melts it, right? He's like, what? My machine gun? It's melting like a piece of wax. But then the Spectre takes it one step further, and the guy's hands start to melt like wax, right? It's great.
Yep.
I love it. And then basically the guy's entire body melts into a pool of wax. Freaking awesome. So then anyway, now we cut over to... This is Fritz now, right?
Yep. Fritz, the only one left.
Right. So now Fritz is flying away on a plane. He's like, in a few hours, I'll be in sunny South America, surrounded by senoritas and living like a king. Uh-oh. But then out of the smoke of his pipe comes the Spectre, right? And instead of pupils, the Spectre has little skulls in his eyes, so we know he means business.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. And then this is kind of cool because this bad guy sees the Spectre on the plane, but no one else sees him, so they don't know what he's screaming about, right? So then the bad guy, this kind of reminded me of the origin story you mentioned, but he grabs this woman, this random woman passenger, puts a gun to her head, and threatens her. And then basically the Spectre's like, well, farewell, murderer. The lights go out. Then the lights come back on again. And all that's left is a skeleton with no flesh on it, right? So that's all that's left of Fritz. Then we cut over.
Sadly, the Spectre got confused and he actually killed the stewardess. Fritz snuck out the back door.
Whoops.
He's hiding in the bathroom of the airplane.
Yep. Yeah, Fritz or Spectre may have the powers of a god, but that's one easy way to fool him is just flick the lights.
But no, we see that it's Fritz because he's still clutching the gun.
Right. So cool.
That's pretty good.
So cool.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to the police headquarters, and of course Jim Corrigan's boss is chewing him out. Right. He's like, I don't give a tinker's damn about sealing. Oh yeah, because what's his name? Jim Corrigan's like, don't worry, Chief. We've got the entire city sealed off. Those mugs don't have a ghost of a chance. And his boss is like, I don't give a tinker's damn about sealing the city, Corrigan. I want those guys caught. Yes, sir. The end. Because guess what? Yeah, because they're already all dead because the Spectre killed them, right?
Yeah. So what happens the next day when they still haven't caught him?
I guess he'll just pretend to keep looking for them and spinning his wheels and getting paid. I don't know.
So he just looks like a terrible police officer.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
The end.
Yeah, that's it. The Spectre.
Quick one.
It was very quick. All right, so the writer here is Michael Fleischer. And I had never heard of him. But apparently you were familiar with him. He was born in 1942 and raised in New York City. He started writing comic books in 1972. And he was doing assorted supernatural and horror stories for DC. All those House of Mystery, House of Suspense, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. He was originally contracted by a separate company to do encyclopedias based on Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, a series of 3 encyclopedias. And he was doing so much research at the DC offices, they eventually just hired him to do writing for him. But that's how he got into comics.
Cool.
Because he was writing those encyclopedias. Aside from the 10-issue Spectre run in Adventure Comics, he's most famous for writing the Jonah Hex character for 12 years.
Nice.
He began with the character on Weird Western Tales in 1974, and he continued through 1985 on the character's self-titled series. And he did issues 1 through 12 and issues 16 through 92. Cool. So if you like Jonah Hex, Michael Fleischer. Yeah. Explain who Jonah Hex is for the kids, because I've never read any Jonah Hex.
Oh, well, he's basically like a cowboy. But the big thing that separates him from other cowboys is one half of his face is completely, deformed, like almost like Two-Face from Batman. But to make it matters even worse, his bottom jaw is only connected to his top jaw by a piece, like a stringy piece of flesh. It's pretty disgusting.
Well, how did his face get like that?
I don't know.
Shaving accident?
Yeah, probably.
Right.
But you know what's funny? There's nothing worse than a movie that's ashamed of its own, itself, right? Of its own image.
Oh, they made a movie?
They made a movie in 2008. Okay.
That's right. Wasn't what's her face in it?
It was Josh Brolin.
But wasn't the girl from who's the hot girl from Transformers?
Let me look it up. It was Megan Fox. You're right. Yeah. It was 2010. Yep. John Malkovich, Michael Fassbender. I didn't realize how many people were in this movie.
Yeah, those are some good people in that
movie.
Wow.
Well, what's funny is, as you know, I do the Comic Book Syndicate, and we've reviewed every single superhero movie in the past 14 years. This is one we just completely skipped. We didn't give a shit about it. But I'll see it one day.
Now you said they kind of hated they didn't base anything on the comic book, or?
No, it's not that. But when I said that it's ashamed of its own, character, the cover of the movie, they Photoshop out the deformed side of his face. So you might as well just think it's like Clint Eastwood in a Western, right? I'm just saying if you're gonna make a Jonah Hex movie, it's got to look like Jonah Hex, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So anyway.
All right, so he did Jonah Hex. Get this though, Michael. Well, he also ran into some trouble with Harlan Ellison. Do you know that guy?
Oh, that's what I was going to talk about.
All right. All right. So Harlan Ellison is a writer. He did a lot of sci-fi stuff, a lot of work in TV, and he's kind of famous. I never read any of his stuff. Have you read his stuff?
Yeah, like, I mean, I first came across him through an episode of Star Trek, The City on the Edge of Forever.
Yes.
And then, I don't know, I think some of his most famous books are like, I only know these by name, but I think was it A Boy and His Dog?
I think that is correct. Yep.
Yeah, and like basically he's been around forever. I actually met him. I went to a comic convention in Chicago and met him, and he is awesome. Even if you don't like him, if you're not interested, just Google Harlan Ellison interview. He's one of the most interesting guys you'll see in an interview like ever. He's just hilarious. He's like
I guess he wrote comic books too, right? He did.
Yes. He wrote like Batman. He wrote a Daredevil. He wrote, like I've actually got a documentary about comic book artists, and he's the host of it. He's a huge comic book fan.
He's famous for his. He's still alive, right? Or am I saying?
No, he died just a few years ago.
Oh, that's sad. But he was known for his like combative personality and being a little quirky or
right.
An interesting fella. It sounds,
Well,
like go ahead.
I was gonna say, can we talk about how he described Michael Fleischer?
Yes, that's what we were going to get to. Go ahead.
Okay, so he did an interview with the Comics Journal, which is, if anyone doesn't know, it still exists. It's online, unfortunately now only, but it's like the most respected publication about comics that there is. And he was being interviewed by the editor in chief or whatever, or the publisher, Gary Groff, and they came upon Michael Fleischer. And throughout the course of this interview, Harlan Ellison described Michael Fleischer as, quote, crazy, certifiable, twisted, derango, a lunatic, and a bug fuck. And so because of this, Michael Fleischer sued Harlan Ellison for $2 million for libel.
In fairness to Harlan Ellison, he was saying these things in a complimentary way. He thought he was like being nice to Fleischer by saying these things, because he was talking about the run he had on Spectre, and he said DC got rid of him because he was so twisted, and like these qualities are things that Harlan Ellison admired. But
right.
Fleischer thought, like, you just sullied my character, and you're going to make it very hard for me to get work now. So yeah, he sued him for $2 million.
But it doesn't say. I don't think he won, did he?
No, the jury settled for Ellison. They went with the defendant. So yeah.
Right.
So he didn't get.
Yeah, like it's kind of ridiculous that like Fleischer claimed that this ruined his career. Like, come on. I mean, someone calling you crazy, is that really going to ruin your career forever? I think it's kind of ridiculous. But anyway.
Yes. Which is why he lost the case.
Right.
But after Fleischer left comics. This is interesting, though. He went to college in New York City in 1987. So at the age of 45, he went to college.
What a loser. Oh, wait, I'm 44. Anyway, go ahead.
Go to college, Michael.
Yeah.
Then he went to the University of Michigan for grad school, and he eventually earned his PhD in anthropology when he was 54 years old. So look at that.
Cool.
Went back and got his PhD. And he wrote his thesis on commercialized cattle theft in Tanzania.
Huh.
That's interesting. And after that,
too many of those now. Anyway, go ahead.
After that, he went around working for humanitarian organizations in the developing third world countries. So look at that, Michael. He gave back to the world.
Yeah,
helping others.
There's still hope for me for a second career then.
I don't think so. I think you're pretty much done. But this guy, he's going around helping developing third world countries. He died in 2018 from Alzheimer's disease at the age of 76.
Right.
76. So yeah, an interesting fella. I like that. How about that though? Whole second act of his life.
Yeah,
just goes amazing. Get his PhD.
It's funny. Yeah, a lot of these guys, like we've talked about before, from the 70s, they did have like a second act. Like Steve Gerber, as we know, became like a TV writer, right, and cartoon writer. What's his name? Bill Mantlo became a lawyer. Because that was we've talked about this. How a lot of these guys were writing these comics in the 70s when they were like in their 20s, right? So.
And they weren't getting paid a lot of money either.
Right, and they weren't really professional writers, right? They were kind of just fans turned writers. Not to say they weren't good, but it was just a whole different era.
Speaking of Mantlo, and we were talking about Harlan Ellison, I guess Mantlo did an issue of the Hulk. I forget what issue number it is. But basically, he ripped off a Outer Limits episode that Harlan Ellison had written called The Soldier, I believe.
Okay.
And also, Ellison thought that James Cameron had ripped him off.
For Terminator, yes. I think he got sued, right?
Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
And I think they settled it or something. I don't know. But anyway, with Mantlo, Mantlo actually admitted, like, yeah, I just ripped off this episode. And they said it was a tribute to that episode or something. But they didn't give Harlan Ellison credit. And so he was very upset. So he called Jim Shooter and was yelling at Shooter. And Shooter said, hey, it's just a mistake. We'll fix it. We'll give you credit or whatever. And Ellison said, all right, no big deal. Just give me the credit for the story and pay me what Mantlo got paid for doing that issue. And then also he wanted lifetime subscriptions to everything Marvel produced.
Okay.
And I guess Shooter just said, all right. So,
really? That's probably nothing to them, right? It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, because they print all those books anyway, you know what I mean? So it's like they always have extras.
Runoff, what it's called, yeah.
So but yeah, so there's that, Harlan Ellison.
Huh.
We're going to do a podcast about Harlan Ellison next.
Yeah, no, he's great. Seriously, like when you get a chance, just Google Harlan Ellison. He's amazing. I got like an hour-long interview with him on the Tom Snyder Show or whatever it was called. But yeah, he's great.
Tom Snyder tomorrow, right?
Yeah, the Tomorrow Show. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so there it is, the Spectre. What about the writing here, Michael?
I thought it was fine. I thought it was good.
It's 1974. I will say this. There's a couple huge issues with the plot. Like, how does the Spectre know? Like, I get he goes to the antique because he finds that business card, which is ludicrous, whatever. But, so then he's chasing down Hank or whatever, that guy in the car. Hank dies. He hears him talking on the phone to a guy named Charlie, but he doesn't know who Charlie is.
Yeah.
How does he get to Charlie? And then how does he get to Fritz?
Right. See, the thing is at least they show him coming out of the smoke of the guy's cigar. I mean, not to say that that's a rational, or his pipe. Not to say that it's a rational explanation, but it's like we said earlier, there has to be a limit to his power, right? So even if he's a ghost and even if he can turn people into wax, he can't be omniscient, right?
Yeah, like we need to see the detective work that gets him from A to B to C,
right,
you know?
Right,
and there is none. He just shows up at these criminals and kills them. All right. Well, that's fine. And then, like we said at the end of the story, the ending is, I don't know, they could have done that better. Like,
right.
Like, again, what's going to happen tomorrow when Corrigan shows up to work and those guys still haven't been caught? And the next day when they haven't been caught? The day after when they haven't been caught? Like, I don't know. You could have had, like, the chief say, they're probably a million miles from here. And Corgan could just say, they'll get what they do. I'm sure they'll get what they deserve or something like that.
Right.
And that'll tie it up. But now it's just open, like, so Corgan just looks like a terrible detective. I don't know.
Right.
Whatever.
See, like, to me, this is one of those things where it's a potent idea, but if they were to adapt this into, like, a TV show or movie, they would have to really flesh out this story. But, like, him turning the guy into wax is very cool. You know, running the car off the road is cool. But
and it's kind of shocking. The car thing was kind of shocking because you're not used to, like, in 1974, you're not really used to superheroes just letting people die like that, you know?
Right.
Just go drive off that cliff, buddy.
Right. And it's also funny because, as you mentioned, like, Michael Fleisher got all the credit and or blame, but it was actually Joe Orlando that came up with most of these scenarios, right?
Yeah, they plotted the issues together.
Right.
The ideas, so. But yeah, the melting guy and the skeleton on the airplane, those are both really cool, you know? So, and I guess, do you know how he killed other people later? I think he turned some into, like, salt or...
Yeah, there's that. Trees. I remember there was one where he turns someone into scissors and cuts them, I think. Or he turns them into paper and he cuts them as scissors, Yeah. So yeah, the Spectre... I just remember him as a kid, like, seeing Justice Society of America stuff, and he always looked so cool. But I really didn't know his backstory or anything. I like his backstory about the gangster killing him and coming back and having to break off the engagement with the lady he loves. And then I also heard that later on he got an offer from the Voice, or because some people say it was the Archangel Michael who made him the offer. Then later, you know, God, the basic God. But anyway, they say, hey, you can come back into heaven now. You did your job. You can come into heaven. And he said no because he always wanted to protect Clarice. Okay.
Which I think is pretty nice. But I don't know. I only heard that in one... Like, I watched a bunch of little YouTube videos about the Spectre. before doing the research, and I heard that in one of the videos, but I didn't read it anywhere, so I don't know if that's true or not. But
see, now,
cool.
just to add to the confusion, okay?
Yep.
I will say that, for those listening, everyone knows that in the 50s, DC rebooted the Flash, Green Lantern, the Atom, and Hawkman, right? And gave them all new origins, right? But then, a couple years later, instead of rebooting the rest of the Justice Society, they just brought them randomly back, like the Spectre, Hourman, the Wildcat, Dr. Fate, but they didn't really say whether they were the Earth 1 or Earth 2 versions, so it got very confusing. And then as the 70s went on, you'd see them teaming up with Batman, and then people are like, okay, wait a minute, I thought these were Earth 2 characters. How can they be teaming up with Batman on Earth 1, right? Then it got even more confusing because when DC rebooted in 1985 after the Crisis, they merged all their Earths together, right? And then you had the Justice Society in the 40s, and then the Justice League in the quote present day. But then you have characters like the Spectre who are like 70 years old, right? And so the stories in the 1990s with the Spectre, written by John Ostrander, it's supposed to still be the golden age Spectre, but in real time. So technically, Jim Corrigan is like a 70-year-old man. So it makes no sense. And that's probably why they came up with the story about his girlfriend, Clarice, being immortal, right? So they could explain why she was still around. I'm assuming. I'm just guessing.
And it gets even more weird, though, because like she's in her 90s or something, and her granddaughter tries to kill her. And the Spectre, like, smother her with a pillow. And the Spectre is there meeting with Clarice at the time, like, in the astral plane or something. Their spirits are talking. So then he comes out and he swaps their spirits. He puts the young girl's soul into the old lady body, and he puts Clarice's soul into the young girl's body. I don't know.
I just avoid that stuff like the plague.
Yeah, it's all just nonsense.
Right.
So...
These also, did you come across the time where Hal Jordan became the Spectre?
Yes, I did. After, was that after he was Parallax, right?
Right.
And he died, and then he became the Spectre, I believe.
I just hate that crap, personally. But
I agree. I agree. So there it is, the Spectre. The art here, we mentioned Jim Aparo. It's fine. It's good, solid comic book art,
Yeah, like I said, it's not peak Aparo, but it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the storytelling's amazing, like incredible, as we said. Like you can always tell exactly what's going on, and it's a little bit more fluid than his 80s and 90s work, so that's better. And obviously there's some creativity with the hands melting and the skeleton and stuff like that. So and like the images of the Spectre in the sky and the lightning, it's very moody, right? It's good stuff.
And we talked about Aparo in detail. I think back when we did the Brave and the Bold.
Issue,
number 2, I think, of Flea Market Fantasy or something like that. So there you go. All right, so 1 out of 10, Michael, for the Spectre.
I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10.
I'll give it a 6.
All right.
6. All right. I like the Spectre, but the again, the plot holes. This story, it seems like it was just too condensed.
Right.
You needed like
12
at least 2 more pages to kind of flesh things out.
Only 12 pages, right.
Yeah. So
if they just would have explained how he found those other guys, it would have been a lot better.
Yep. Yeah. So there you go, the Spectre. Next week.
Wait. Let's not forget. And then we've also got Is a Snarl Human, and that gets an 8 out of 10. But anyway, okay.
So that's why you gave it a 7 overall, because you like the snarl or
that's
whatever.
That's right, better.
But all right, so that's the Spectre. Now, all right, next week, Michael, we got some issues. I don't know. Here's the thing. It's I knew we would be recording on like the 29th, so I'm like, oh, that's still Shock-Tober. I'm going to pick another Shock-Tober title because I know the kids love Shock-Tober.
That's right.
So I was going to go Werewolf by Night.
Woo!
Because I've never read any Werewolf by Night.
What
You've
issue?
never read any Werewolf by Night. Well, that's the point. As of now, we're going to go Werewolf by Night issue 15.
Okay.
From, I believe, 1974-ish, somewhere around there. And this also features Dracula. So it's a werewolf fighting a Dracula. Well, the Dracula, not just a Dracula. And this is probably where they got that whole Twilight thing from this issue.
Could be.
Werewolf by Night. And I believe our buddy Miles Watson will be joining us to discuss this. So Werewolf by Night, issue 15. That's the plan. Maybe it'll change, maybe not. But Werewolf by Night, issue 15.
All right, looking
So
forward
there
to
you
it. All right, so yeah, Flea Market Fantasy. We review a different Bronze Age comic book every week. That's a comic from the 70s or the 80s. 1 week I pick, 1 week Mike Dell picks. We are available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, under Comic Book Syndicate. We're also on the Twitter Comic Book Syndicate feed, the Facebook page, and the Comic Book Syndicate website. We air a new episode every Tuesday, so please be sure to listen next week and every week. And until next Tuesday, disperse!